Greetings. Welcome to Of Darkness and Light. This is Daphne Garrido. I wanted to talk about my newest creative work. And I just wanted to do a little journal on the creative process and my aims with that project and how I feel about it. I'm really excited about it. It's called uh, Dead and Gone to Heaven. And so I'll be doing some personalizing as well, because I know that people have followed me here, and I've been very forthright about where I'm at, and I am escaping my Penrose of executive dysfunction finally, and finding myself actually able to communicate and function in a way that is more of my natural self and spirit. And that feels very nice. And the reason is because, when I started to do my gender transition, I was seeking to become myself. And when I became schizophrenic, I learned that I had to pay attention to what was coming through in my art, which was trauma projection. And I was just like, okay, I know how this works. I'm getting some stuff that is shamanistically charged, because I used to do meditations and I used to get things that were so profound from my dreams and whatnot. So, and I've had psychic experiences with groups of people, and so I know there's some of that worked in here, but there's so much projection from my subconscious about what's real and what's not, and what's magic and what's just intelligence and what's delusion. And so I struggled with that for a long, long time. And as soon as I hit the part where I was going to be free of my schizophrenia, I started claiming it really boldly as healed. And it was like, I was right about something. I was right that I was starting to unwind it. And then I started screaming about how I was non-delusional, but it was probably very hard to tell because I was still being creatively mad towards people, weaponizing words clearly, and just like obviously trying to use like mind control type language that definitely doesn't work, would probably just hit your brain hard. Be like, what's going on with that? Weird. She's writing poetry that's backwards that makes my brain fart. That's at least my intention, but I don't really know how it works. But that's what I'm saying is I was working through executive dysfunction that's having me reach out towards people for help in absurd ways. And I've still pretty much only done that because now that I've unwound my executive dysfunction, I've realized that I'm in a place of freedom here. And I've kind of like, I did a lot of like cleanup projects today. I'm basically like garage sailing what I can from my storage online and wherever I can. And just trying to put together a little money for some cushion to get by so I don't have to sell my car, so I don't have to use that, which is going to continue to be a key for me because I'm actually doing much better. I was really worried about driving, but as I've come together, it's become apparent that I can do it. It's just not something I would like to have to do. I just have to be very focused. And so I pay attention to that. And I put on music that helps me focus. And I just stay very in the process. And I feel safer than ever, honestly. But at the same time, I guess that's not true. There's still flittings of mind. There's still too much spaciousness in my head. if I was not driving on roads that I was driving on all the time and had like muscle intelligent memory of, I would probably be breaking rules, because that actually happened. I went out of my way to somewhere new, and I just like ran a red light. And it's just that kind of thing happens with my executive dysfunction. And so the way that I'm not triggering my body spite responses is I'm just admitting the truth. There's a bunch of stuff I just cannot do, and I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to put that. I'm never gonna fill out a fucking form again in my life. I feel great. Like, I will when I have to, but that's pretty much a thing. I mean, like, that just put a lot of spite in me when I said that. I don't know, like, I'm gonna go get help places that are gonna make me write in forms, but I'm mainlining towards a solution where I literally never have to do that again, because it is hard for my brain, because my brain is open, and that's cool. I'm really creative and fun, and I'm a sweet, tender-hearted person when I'm down past my trauma, and so I'm there. I got to my deepest wound. It's funny because the things don't seem like they come out in the right way. But for those who are following, there's just like this surface level, like obsessive need to heal with somebody who's actively traumatizing me, who's legally liable, literally, and still refusing to communicate. And that became the need to heal. And I was just like, dude, I gotta hit that one. It's just like blocking everything. And it was projecting into all of my art, and I was just using my art therapy and talking to my therapist, and they're like, yeah, you should. I mean, like, I should have gotten some kind of like mediation service or something. Because yeah, it drove me nuts. Because I was doing a process of self-healing, and somebody was being such an evil little twerp about not talking to me. So it drove a schizophrenic crazy lady crazy, and it still kind of makes me mad to even talk about, because that's how Daphne's mind went. And I'm still Daphne, but I just mean, like, I don't have a big empty space in my heart, and that is a beautiful thing, and we all are our heart. But there was a struggling person that I once was, who really needed a hug, who doesn't really need a hug anymore, and they died waiting for somebody to respond once, and it's really sad. I'm not dead, but there is a reality to a trauma that's there mentally from somebody who has handicapped me through almost pure neglect. What I am responsible for with them is blatant annoyance. And that's not enough to ruin someone's livelihood. And they're still watching, and that's why I'm talking. Or if they're not watching, someone they know is watching. And I'm just going to say it plainly. They're still liable for my livelihood. And I'm going to use my regained composure to write a story, and to be creative, and to continue reaching out to people when it's appropriate, and to continue on my first step, which is getting a legal diagnosis so I can enforce my whole legal process. And that's step 2. And so as soon as I get a diagnosis, I'll see about getting help, getting actual disability set up, if that's the path. And I will use that diagnosis and better preparations to get some kind of legal help to get restitution for the damages against me. So, but that is a trauma that's still there, but I've had my good cry about that person, right? Like I don't need to see that person again. The trauma there now is about the lack of someone else standing up and being like, yo, that was really wrong. Not one person has ever told me that they think that I'm right, that that person has done wrong. Not one person. It's absurd to me, because it's just like, I guess it's not absurd. I understand it. People are projecting, and they're projecting their deepest hurts. And I finally wrote something that had started again where I knew that person was entangled with my intentions to write and heal. And as I started writing Horrible and Lovely, I realized it wasn't for them at all. And I just removed them from my intentions entirely. And it was such a healing process. And it came back to just like, hey, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to do this for this other thing that came to mind, which was a really tragic, like ultimately tragic, like non-starter romance turned rivalry turned these few sweetest moments that I didn't even remember fully, with all of this heavy feeling, at least on my end. And it brought me back. I've been writing for a long time about seeking a feeling, right? And having this dream when I was a kid that was a part of my spiritual journey to remember where it was from. And I literally had so much trauma about where I had experienced it with another human being abundantly when I was in school, in these acute moments of connection with another person. I felt that feeling that I've been talking about and had complete repression over where they actually came from. I was like, there's this dream. I felt the feelings a bunch in these like fantasy moments where I was thinking about being a woman. I didn't know exactly what's going on. And then I felt it with this other person who didn't traumatize me. And so, but it's like the point of my whole spiritual journey has been to find out what that feeling is. And that feeling is a really beautiful person who I loved the most immediately when I was younger and met them. And we had an experience of just a really, really special like night. And it took me there so hard to that feeling I had had that dream of. And I remember I went home and I was just like dead, just dead forever in my heart. Just like cheesing in bed forever that night about like, that's the feeling, right? And then so I wrote that story about the sweet stuff, this kind of like tragic, poetic ending to how that relationship ended. And then I was like sitting on it and kind of like being a terrorist with my executive dysfunction and like just acting from my subconscious and like sending it out to people from my high school to blow their minds, because there's a part of me that just truly believes that like me and this person gaslit people so hard to really not think that the reason that we hated each other was because we had a mega crush, because it's hard to do, but we're both smart cookies. And it was like, when I think about it, it's like they took all the cool kids and I took all the loser kids. And it's not really a thing because there's cool kids and loser kids on both sides, but it's like they took all the popular people and turned them against me in high school. Maybe not, but that's the perception, because I feel like there was a shadow war going on at my high school between these two people. And it's a tragedy because one of them was a trans woman, and they were so buried within themselves that they couldn't express what needed to be expressed when people feel those types of feelings, which is like anything authentic. Because the person I was such a liar to hide everything, especially at school. And so there's a very specific part. So in this, it's talking about how there were feelings that were unreal packed into those moments with them. And they're just like these felt forward grabs that I swear are real. And it's not necessarily that they're connected. It's that's the feeling. It's like their energy of intellectual, compassionate, intense intelligence. I don't know, it's hard to say. It's just like they've got a very specific kind of personality that is the kind of personality that it's my whole heart. And we just messed each other up because I was a trans girl and I was such an asshole being a Heidi person, and it went back and forth. And in Horrible and Lovely, I talked about my side of it, of like basically cursing myself to break my own heart in a way that would never stop, by like making them cry in front of me, by like winning an election that I didn't really want to win, that I was telling people lies about, having wanted to do exactly that. It's just such a curse on my own heart. I don't remember the thing exactly. So I'm writing this chapter, and there's a line that comes out, and I swear it's one of the italicized lines. And so if you've read this chapter, please know I have finally fixed the lower section. This is one of the longest chapters I've ever written, and so kind of messed with my process, because I should have come back halfway and done passes straight from there. Because it's just like, I just kept working the top and then getting down and just being fatigued of mind. So it was hard for me to finish that whole chapter tightly. And I'm still going to revisit the last few sections a couple of times. But I think the second to last section is finally tight. The outro. It was just like that. I was nervous to write that. That was kind of vulnerable. Anyways. So, sometimes when I'm nervous or scaredy to write something, I hustle through it too fast. But I finally have found my language with this piece. And up top, there was some line, I think it was one of the italicized lines, and it was like, as Lethal's heading down into the underground, and it's Yayo, right? I have notes. I'm still new to this story as well, but her drone, right, is leading the way, and there's some remembrance that comes back. And when I wrote that line, there was a profound remembrance in me, and it was like such a deep thing. It was like I have a scratch. I don't know what that was. It was not a fully profound remembrance. It was a sharded, splintered, barely remembrance. It was like, I see something. I see like the snack bar by the football field of my old school. And I see somebody crying, but I don't know who it is, or somebody's crying. I see the person that I'm writing my heart out for in this, And I don't understand. It's like I'm like, well, was I not there? Like, what is this moment? It's like I was not there, but I was there. Somebody cried. That's how I remembered this moment. I still can't even remember. I repressed it so hard. It was like I was giving them a cutesy note or a gift or something, or just simply walking up to have a conversation with them. But they looked really extra pretty, and I was being really brave with my heart. And they said something or did something, like if it was a gift, they didn't accept it, or I saw them throw it away or something. I don't remember. I just remember a bunch of people were literally watching me crying my heart out in response to something, or at least like tearing up and running away, like obviously like starting an ugly cry. And it was like these popular girls, and they were laughing about it. And I don't blame the person at all. Because that's what happens when everybody has expectations they project onto people. Is there's just some really bad people out there who manipulate good people into doing bad things for superficial reasons. And I'm always going to forgive people, especially from my time period of growing up, for misunderstandings of the depth of how horrendous my closeted trans experience was. But yeah, no, that's my deepest wound there ever was. And I was on a healing path to heal with my body, right? I got to the bottom, dude. It's just a girl that I always felt the most for. And still do, because I believe in the emotional memory of the heart, as it's like, yo, when love gets in there, it gets in there. But literally the person who, for a big period of my life, I was aware the feeling was related to, that I completely repressed that memory, and then spent a large portion of my life being like, I don't really feel that feeling anymore. I'm going to try and figure out how to feel that again. There was something really special in that, and I knew it had to do with me transitioning into being a woman. And that's what was so weird. It was just like, there were so many layers of emotions in the interactions with them that I wouldn't doubt through my experience with kind of like feeling stuff forward in time, that maybe they are a person who I know again someday, and it's profoundly compassionate. And but yeah, that's what's up. And then I just made it hot because I do that, and this is like the coolest science fiction story ever started. I'm really excited about it. I changed something at the end where I made Elsewhere a capitalized title because I talked about other continents, right? And I don't know. Elsewhere, the peoples of Elsewhere are what they're going to try and save when they get to the space station Icarus. But I'm going to explore that. Writing this was very exploratory. I had some music choices. I knew I was writing to that time travel song. I heard it and I was just like, this is so hot. This is it. It's so hot. And then I just really took my time with it. And I finally decided to just like get past executive dysfunction and write language that's not like twerpy about how I don't technically need those words. Um, and just like wrote something that's for everybody. And there's something that I'm going to love about my old writing, and I will update it all. But there's some of it that will stay. Some of my short stories will stay the way they are, especially, and probably the Justiciars, right? But maybe all of it, kind of. But there's going to be expansions. I just have recognized that there was a move where I was calling things hot, which was an obfuscation of my executive dysfunction through compartmentalization of the fact that it was actually lazy. And so I've recognized that as lazy and I cannot unsee it. And so now I'm like, okay, I just got to put all the words in sentences, dude. Stop being lazy about it. And so that's the key. And now I think it's like the coolest thing ever. And it's still so dense of prose that has no dialogue, basically. And I think it's hot that way. I just write that way a lot, but I'm going to be working this one out to have more dialogue. It's just an opening chapter that kind of like leans into my sensibilities of doing something broadly scoped that we fly through, but with appropriately complete explanations of things instead of leaving so much empty. I was really Jack Fancying for a while where I was just like, dude, I'm going to see the bare minimum and I'm going to have you play in the blank space. And I still love doing that. But this story is almost completely without any kind of like transgressive intentions, except for the kind of, it's so sweet when you think about it the way I think about it, because I'm a disabled woman and I get so spun up and I'm really lovey-dovey, dude. And like the way that works is so kind of like creepy hot for people who are like, ooh, mind control is creepy hot, dude. And it's not really mind control, because it's just like it's a play between two very intelligent people and one person who knows that they can basically short circuit their brain thinking about the thing that they want to think about, which is how they love somebody. And that's actually a more proper like if somebody says I love you, saying like I know you do is the best response. If you're not a wimp, it's even better this way, because when somebody's saying I love you, they want to think about how they love you. They don't want you to placate them deep down. And so to me, that last section is really not very transgressive. It's just like, okay, Nira clearly has some disability. I had Spirit speak to her in a line. So it's like, there's an intelligence that Lethal walks with that is in her body, that is also feeding into Yeo, that is coming back, that is kind of her whole person, very expanded of intelligence in a kind of like mathematical, almost, it's like subconscious way, right? It's like there's something profound in her processing capabilities, but what's in her consciousness is instinct, and that's just hot. And then I just like it. I naturally inflect my language with the characters' personalities, and so everything written around and about Lethal alone is going to be like the hottest shit in the world, dude. Because I know my fucking Lethal now, dude. It's just like that's it. It's over. All my writing's gonna be the hottest shit in the world because I'm just showing off for my heart now. Because I was always writing from my heart, and so everything I've written has had these layers where I'm like, dude, even when I'm trying not to write about this bitch that traumatized me, they're in it, dude. Guess what else is in it? Guess what else is in everything? What that person triggered remembrance of, which was getting gutted brutally as a trans woman by someone who made me feel the feeling. And I was like, not this again, dude. Not this again. And they're not going to talk to me ever. I was just like, what is this? It's like, I need to heal with this person, dude. And it's like, yeah, I got past it. I had the good cry that people without schizophrenia have when somebody breaks their heart. I had that finally a couple days ago after I was like in the middle of my first pass of Horrible and Lovely. I was like, I'm finally a schizophrenic person who got traumatized by someone to have them like stuck in their heart is finally over them. And it's because they realized that they just reminded them of their deepest trauma, which I didn't even remember was a trauma at the time. I just was like, dude, I found somebody who I love more in my heart memory. Fuck yeah. I was like, I'll just write for their ass and be a terrorist. And I didn't even realize why I was being a terrorist until I did it. And I got all of my executive dysfunction out that isn't the part of executive dysfunction, which is schizophrenic executive dysfunction, which is where you cannot do executive functions of the forebrain. It's the other part of executive dysfunction, which is also included in non-schizophrenic executive dysfunction. But in schizophrenic executive dysfunction, that portion of it is almost Tourette's-like, where you have no real option. Your subconscious is driving you to be a bitch and stuff. And so that part of executive dysfunction, which is shared with everybody in the whole world, basically, because we're all traumatized, is you are a traumatized spite ball that is acting out of accordance with who you are. And that's what I had to the highest degree, because schizophrenic people have it in a way where it is a trap. It is a trap when they aren't being taken care of, when they are like me, and the world has problems with who they are, and where they're not being taken care of, and they're a disabled woman who can't do forms, dude, who literally won't do forms. Because that makes me feel good to say stuff like that. But when I'm not angry and untaken care of and worried about money, I'm chill. I'm so chill. And I just have faith, dude. I just have found my faith again, because I've been feeling my feeling again. Yeah. I felt it again. And that's hot for me. I like wrote it into the story where it's like I fell asleep a few times during the day, just being like, what's going on, dude? My heart's ringing with my feeling, dude. I'm like in it. It's like I feel like I'm in heaven, dude. I feel like I'm going to heaven. And I just laid down and went to sleep, and I've been feeling better and better. And that might be a person, or it might be another sign to point the way of that type of person. But I don't think it is. I think there's someone named Jordan who my body's intelligence knows has a kind of reversal of what I have. And it's just not something that I think they'll be able to escape having to heal. And that's going to make a really powerful relationship that's going to bring me back to those feelings. And so I think that's what I felt at a time, is that I have a relationship with somebody that is profound to me. And when I was younger, they were like an adult. So I wrote our situation of me feeling what I'm guessing now is them in the future, helping me and being a compassionate figure in my life that I love, that I have also projected a bunch of sexual stuff onto, just because it's like, dude, it's a science fiction story. I'm making lethal hot, dude. And that's on the table. So, but at the same time, the important part is the way I felt when I was younger around them, which makes most sense that I might actually have found my key of like who in humanity is going to help the trans witch, who's actually kind of like a wizard, dude. I just realized that I've been yelling at witches about how they're doing witchcraft wrong, and I'm like, dude, I'm just a lady wizard. Um, that's what I am, because wizards totally are like, you're doing it wrong. There's something different. It's not gendered. Wizards and witches are different. I am a woman wizard, dude. And that's hot. Because I love a witch, dude. I love a witch who almost certainly did the opposite of what I did. I made prayers about this person and me being able to be together one day. I did like wish upon a stars. They might have done that too, but they might have also done blatant witchcraft, trying to curse me. And I'm just throwing that out there because my inner Sherlock just says from the time and the culture, that's highly possible. And if that's possible, that means they might have set their intentions to do that most terrible thing when their real intentions were they wanted me. Just throwing it out there. And they did this thing, so we went, boo! That's just a part of my working theory that I'm fine with being wrong about. But I don't think I am, dude. I don't think I am. And so I'm just going to work on getting better and keep writing a story that I'm going to sell and make about my lethal, right? Oh, my lethal. Oh, my lethal. Okay. See y'all later.